Merry Ostara Witches! It is time for the next Witchathon, my favorite readathon, mostly because so far it's the only one I've done. This month, however, I am getting really on it and doing two, one right after the other. Let's see if I can prove my booktubeness here. But let's jump right into it. So I'm pretty happy with what I've picked this time. I've actually managed to get some books that I just in general want to read, as long as some that I would never read on my own. Let's see how well that goes. Alright. Ostara is a time of rebirth and new life. Pick a book in a genre you don't normally read. Now, I'm a big believer in that. I don't think anyone can really say they hate all of an entire genre because they're just so big. There's something in that genre you could find. But for me, there's a specific kind of book that I just don't touch most of the time. And that is anything with YA boarding schools. Like, my sisters loved the, what was it called? The Private series or something like that. Didn't care for it at all. But I happen to have an indie book that is set in that kind of thing. So, in honor of the Witchathon, I'll try it. And let's see if I can't get this to show up. Just barely. Haha. The Academy Introductions by C.L. Stone. This is an indie book. It revolves around a girl named Sang, I believe, whose parents are kind of horrible. They treat her very negatively. So she goes to this academy trying to essentially have a fresh start. She meets all these friends, and all of the friends she meets are guys, which I'm a little bit wary about. I'm a little bit wary of the I make friends with boys because they're less dramatic than girls vibes. But essentially, over the course of the story, she uncovers some strange secret in that all these new friends aren't what they thought they are. And I'm getting some speculative vibes. I'm guessing like some secret YA fantasy, which is why I kind of lean towards it. It's still not really what I read. I don't read YA in general. But I'm hoping that the speculative elements will kind of make up for it. Because it is the beginning of a series. I honestly don't see myself continuing with it. But then again, I usually don't. I'm very, very picky on what series I will actually continue with. Next up, flowers are a symbol of spring. Read a book that has flowers on the cover. I kind of changed this one a little bit. There's only one flower on the cover. That is Alethea by Megan Tennant. Megan Tennant is another, I guess I could call her a booktuber. I think she leans more towards authortube. It is, again, an indie book. I believe self-published or published through Cloud Kitten Chronicles. She is one of my favorite YouTubers to watch. So when I found out that she had a book, of course I wanted to read it. Again, not usually what I usually read. This is YA dystopian. This essentially disease has wiped out all of the surface population. People have had to go underground. And there's a compound of people that are essentially kept in slavery, more or less, because this group of overseers is the only one that has the cure for this disease. So essentially using the apocalypse to make a dystopian setup. The main character's name is actually 736. She is known by her slave number, I guess. And it's all about her fighting back and essentially battling both evil overseers and the post-apocalypse. Again, not usually what I read. This is also really long. I just realized it's like 530 pages. I didn't realize it was that long. I'm hoping the fact that it's YA or NA, I think it's kind of that weird area, will mean it's a little bit easier to read. And also, the fact that it's an ebook also means that I can have it on my phone and just go scroll through while I'm in my daily life, which is a huge help. I love ebooks for that. And also, I will try to actually do the thing where I have the ebooks up here. I'm working on the editing. I've actually got some feelers out for different kinds of software, because that is one of my 2019 bookish goals, and I did really want to get it. Up next, Ostara begins to bring in a season of fertility. Choose a romance book. So I fell back on my classic, tried and true, the Harlequin romance. This is The Hunk Next Door by Deborah Webb and Regan Black. This is fairly short, looks pretty standard. There's a town sheriff who is a woman, and she's uncovering something, and she's kind of falling in love with her next door neighbor, but surprise, next door neighbor is an FBI agent come to protect her from a bigger threat. It seems very by the numbers romance. That's why I pick Harlequin romance books up. That's why I love using them in readathons, or just the Witchathon at this point, because you know what you're getting. It's a fairly easy read. And like I said, I got two readathons this month. I can speak. yesterday was a day. Guys, I just, stick with me. I promise I can do better. Next up is one of my favorites because it lets me read a book that I wanted to read for a while that I could just never find space on my TBR. Warm weather is coming back around. Choose a book that is set in a warm climate. For this one, I picked The Mummy Case by Elizabeth Peters. This is the third in the Amelia Peabody mystery series. It's one of those series where you can technically pick it up at any time and get the gist of the conflict in the book, but there are reoccurring characters. I mentioned Amelia on my To All the Fictional Characters I've Loved Before video. She is one of my favorites. I love her quirky, well, not really quirky, just sarcastic, very sarcastic British vibes. Nothing ever really seems to fluster her. The mysteries tend to be fairly by the book. They tend to be reminiscent of like almost like an Agatha Christie, but that's what I love. Elizabeth Peters, whose real name I'm forgetting at the moment, was actually an Egyptologist, so there's always a lot of love for the area. And of course, it takes place in Egypt during the Victorian era. Nice and hot, and I am super excited. Also, these books I can usually like do in one sitting, and I kind of want to try that. I want to do the one sitting challenge while I'm on spring break, because I got really lucky in that the Witchathon starts on my spring break. Working in elementary school has its perks. But I'm really excited for this one. I love this. I finally have an excuse to read it. I'm gonna race through it. Up next, the next prompt is one that I probably won't be doing. The Witchathon always includes at least one prompt that is not book specific, so it's something you do beyond picking a specific book. And this time it is, the weather is getting friendlier, pick a nice spot outside and read there. I'm probably not gonna do that because I live in the Midwest. It has just barely been above freezing most of the time. I don't see it changing a lot in the next couple of weeks, so I might not do this one. I might like pop outside for like 30 seconds just to say I did it. But in reality, I think what I'll actually do for this one is I'll go find a spot in public instead. I'll go to like a Starbucks or the library or something and read there. So I don't actually have to brave 30-degree weather just for the sake of a readathon. Up next is Nature's Energy is Picking Up. Pick an action-packed book. I was really excited because I feel like action books tend to get no love on BookTube, and I love me like a shootout, and I love me like a terrorist plot, and so I was really happy. This is one also, this is The Killer Collective by Barry Eisler. I got this through Kindle First Reads. It's actually a nifty thing. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you get access to one free ebook at the beginning of every month. It's not a free-for-all. They'll give you 6 you have to pick from, but they usually pick different genres. And this one stood out the most to me. It involves a woman who realized she's been put on a hit list, and it might have been by the government. And there's basically a group that she assembles to try to fight this hit list, including one of the hitmen that the original hit was sent to and decided not to do it, which I like that aspect. I mainly picked this A, I love action, B, I love group dynamics, although a big part of the synopsis is that, oh, how are they going to get together, all of these, you know, mercenaries and hitmen and all that. I also love that there's a major female character, which in action books is not always the case. But in general, I'm hoping that this is as action-packed as it hopes to be. I don't think I've read anything else by Barry Eisler, but if he can do female-led action books well, I'll probably add him to the list and look into more of his work. And last up, as with every Witchathon, you must also read, well, not must, but I want to, the group book, When the Moon Was Ours by Anna-Marie McLemore. This is another YA, but it's also shortish. I'm just reading so much like YA or NA this time. Not quite sure how that happened. So these are about 2 best friends, and they are struck with magic. One of them has roses growing out of, I think, their wrists. Was that what it was? Yes, out of Mia's wrists. And so they're very magical, and there's this house of sisters that everyone believes are witches, and they're coming after this pair, and so it's basically their friendship up against the world. I believe it was touted as magical realism, and I'm not gonna lie, while it's supposed to be YA, the premise kind of reads more mid-grade to me. It depends on how old the characters are, but it reads a little bit more like a mid-grade novel than YA, which is fine. I love mid-grade. At this point, I didn't even look up what this was about until I picked it up from the library, because Rhiannon could basically tell me to read any group book and I would. The last two, The Girl Who Drank the Moon and The Bear and the Nightingale, I both loved them. So at this point, I trust her judgment. I trust that she's gonna give a good group book. So I'll just pick it up the minute she comes up with it. It's weird being an acolyte of someone 5 years younger than me. But I am super excited. I will be doing another reading vlog for this. Like I said, it's starting on my spring break, so I should have a decent amount of time. I'm going to try the read a book in one sitting challenge that I've seen before, just for funsies. I think I can do it. I'm really happy with my 2-0 status with Witchathon. I've tried it both times, completed it both times, and I want to keep it going. But I've also got another readathon this month, so we'll see. With nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.